Hi, and welcome to the Fiery Sky Tutorials. Today we're going to be editing this image here. I have the original opened up in my Photoshop. We are going to go over the Painted Beauty actions along with the Fiery Sky action set on this image today. So the very first thing that I always do with my images is make a copy and kind of clean up the background. So that's what we'll do. We'll just take our background layer and drag it down to this plus sign. I'm just going to go to the spot healing tool here and see if I can clean up some of this with the spot healing tool. I may go into my patch tool and see if that works better, but we'll try this out. I'm just going to zoom in to see if there's any little things that are bothering me and just kind of take them out, clean it up. The reason I do this is I really don't like having anything that's distracting to the eye that's gonna, make people look away from the subject, and we don't want anything distracting from our subject. See if I can get some of this out. No, it looks like I'm gonna need to get the patch tool for these ones. So we'll just get into the patch tool, especially down here. And to me this looks good. Just took out all those little distracting elements. Alright, so the very next thing, I'll flatten this and I'll just go into my action set here. So this is the Painted Beauty collection, and I'm going to play the Even It Out one, and it's just going to brighten it up a bit and get rid of some of the shadows. I may even copy it and make a second copy of it. Is that even doing anything? No. So I will play that layer again, I think. That action again. There. So I like to have my photos even, not too many shadows, and so that's why I did that there. Alright, so I'm going to play my frequency separation action with sharpening. I'll just play that. And I'll explain what all of this is here. So the blur layer is the layer you're going to blur the skin on. So I'm just going to grab my lasso tool here, and my daughter was not happy at this shoot. She was very cold. In between shots we would throw her sweater back on. She was a real trooper. Alright, so we're gonna go, we're just gonna grab part of the skin and we're gonna go up to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'd like to keep it around 7 to 10%. Okay. And then once you've done that action, once you've played the blur action, you can actually just do the shortcut, which is Control or Command on a Mac, Control Alt F. Should repeat that last action you just played. Control Alt F. And all we're doing is just evening out the skin. And Control D to deselect there. Alright, so the paint and brighten skin is, we're just going to take our paintbrush. We're going to change this blending mode from normal to lighten, and opacity only around 10%. And I'm just going to make my brush a little smaller. You want your brush to be really quite soft, so 0% hardness is good. Alright, so we'll hit Alt and we'll just brighten up, paint underneath the eye here. Alt to grab a lighter part of the skin and just paint any darker areas you want to lighten up a little bit. So I might just do the between her eyebrows here and on her forehead. Brighten that up. And that's probably good. So I'll just kind of take that off. That's before, and that's after the lightening. And the gray layer is the layer you're going to do all your patch healing and getting rid of any imperfections that you want to get rid of. I'm just going to get rid of that little dot on her cheek there. I might just soften up the lines under her eyes. And her arms look good. Usually I'll take out, any bruises or scratches or anything like that, but she looks good. All right, well, now we're going to go to the Sharpen Details layer, and you're going to go onto your paintbrush. You're just going to change the blending mode back to normal and 100%. And on the layer mask, you're going to paint with a white brush just over the details that you want to sharpen. So I'm going to sharpen her eyes, nose, mouth, anything else that you want to sharpen. This is maybe a little too sharp. I'm going to bring it down to 30%. And I'll just zoom out here. So that is the before, and that is after all the frequency separation. So now I'll flatten this layer. And I'm going to go down to the Light Creamy Skin Foundation, and I'll just hit play there. And I like to just run this foundation over like the T-zone, any highlights in the skin, and just enhance them a little bit more. So it really just brightens the skin up a little bit. Alright, and then we will play the eyeliner. I'll just hit continue. It's just telling you to paint over at 100% on your brush, and then you can lower the opacity if you find that it's just too strong. I like to paint under the eye a little bit as well, on those lashes under the eye, and just help them stand out a little bit more. I'm just going to lower that opacity down to like 80%. And we'll flatten that. And then I will play the blush and hit continue. And I'm going to paint that on at 100%, and like it says, you can always lower the opacity. Alright, and flatten that one. So with all these layers, you do have to flatten them after, because a lot of them they're selecting the background copy, making a copy of the background. Alright, so this is the lipstick. We're just going to paint this on. So I like to paint on these just to kind of enhance the features, make them a little more pink and rosy. And then we will brighten the catch lights in her eyes. And right now it doesn't look like there's much, but there is, just right here. Just going to make our brush smaller and paint over those catch lights. Flatten that one. Her teeth are not showing, so we will not do that. And what I'm going to do is, I don't want my background to get any lighter, but I do want my subject to be a bit lighter, so we're going to paint on light. And hit continue. So what I like to do is on 100% paint this on my subject. And then I'll just lower my opacity, make my brush a bit bigger, and just kind of blend around my subject here. And again, lower the opacity, brush a bit bigger. Just like that there. Flatten that. And then I'm going to use my Painterly vignette. And I'm just going to bring my brush back up to 100% here. I want the whole sky to be darker, so I'm going to paint this over the sky at 100%, and then just kind of around her. Actually, I'm going to go back, hit Control Z if you ever need to take a step back. I'm going to lower the opacity on around the grass. I do want it at 100% on the sky, but on the grass it was just a little too much. And I'm just going to paint it off around her a little bit. I think I got a bit too close. So that looks good to me. We'll flatten that. Alright, so now I think we'll actually go into the fiery sky details here. So I'm going to deepen the greens. And this is a little too much, so I'm going to put it at 50%. Oop, not 500, 50. Alright, and I'm just going to paint it off my subject a little bit, like at 50%, especially on her skin. Oops. Just paint it off her skin. It's just making her a little too cool in the skin tones. We don't want her to look blue. Okay, and I'm just going to lower this a bit and paint it off her dress slightly. Oh, I've been doing that at the wrong brush. It's been a white brush the whole time. So we'll just redo that. So at 30% I just painted it off her dress, 40%. And at 100% I'm going to go over her skin and hair. I don't want her to look cold. Alright, so that looks good there. We'll flatten that. And then we're going to do the bokeh background. It's already pretty bokeh, but we'll do that. And so with this brush, which is kind of neat, is if you're painting and you go over your subject, as you can see, it's not doing anything to the subject. I mean, if you get too close, it will blur the edges of your subject, as you can see that. Let me just refill this. Okay, and so I don't like to get that close, but you can at least with this background know that it's not going to affect your subject at all. It's, you know, it will keep your subject sharp. So I just like to go around the edges. I'm just going to lower the opacity on this. Okay, that's good. We'll flatten there. And this is the Fiery Sky tone, so I will press play for that one. And then we're just going to paint it over the sky. Alright, so with a white brush at 100%, we're just going to paint over the sky and turn all those blues a nice, beautiful orange. And we'll paint it off the grass in a second here. I'm just going to get it on the sky. we'll lower our brush opacity and zoom in and paint it off the grass. Alright, that looks really nice. And then the next one is the Paint on Warmth brush. So we're just going to paint it on our subject here. I'm going to keep my brush around 50% opacity though. White brush. I'll just paint that on her just to warm her up. Since the sky is so warm, we don't want our subject to be cold. We want her to look warm as well. I'm just going to lower the opacity a little bit, but as you can see, it's just warming her skin tone up a little bit there. All right, we'll flatten that. And then we have a deep matte. So I'll press play on that one. And I like to put my opacity on my mattes down to around 20 or 30%. So I'll put it at 20 just to see what that's going to do. I think I'll keep it at 25. So just nice deep matte. We'll flatten that. Alright, so before I go into doing the dodge and burn, I'm going to make a copy of this. And I'm going to do some liquify. So we'll go up to filter and liquify, and it'll bring up the liquify brush. All right, and I'm just gonna, enhance the wind that's in her skirt here. So I'm just gonna make my brush quite large and just bring the skirt out and in right in here. And we're just gonna kind of play around with the inside of the dress as well. Alright, and then the next thing I want to do is just kind of fluff out her hair a little bit. Just here at the top. That looks good, so we'll hit OK there. Alright, so that is before and after the liquify. We'll flatten this, and then we will go back into our Painted Beauty collection and play the Artistic Dodge brush. And so this is saying you want to keep your dodge brush, the range will be on highlights and exposure between 3 and 5%. And we'll just paint over all the highlights. And in this one, because it's pretty flat light, we're gonna create our own highlights with the dodge brush here as well. So first I'm gonna go over all the little highlights in her hair. Just brighten up her hair a bit. And what I like to do is I like to create some light along the T-zone. So we're just gonna lightly go over her forehead here and down the bridge of her nose. I also like to enhance those highlights even more with the dodge brush, and I also like to go in the opposite side of the eye and create some shine opposite of the highlight in the eye. And now we'll just do the little lip here. And the highlight on the lip. Alright, so this is before and after doing all those highlights. We'll hit flatten, and then we will do the burn brush. And for the burn brush, you want it to be on the burn brush. The range will be on shadows, and the exposure at between 3 and 5%. And you're just going to go in and do the same thing but over all the shadows. And I do like to paint over the eyebrows because sometimes they get a little bit lighter in the pictures, and I like to, you know, enhance them a little bit more so you can actually see them. So now I'm just going over all the shadows around the nose. You could go over the eyelashes more if you feel like it's needed, but I don't think in this photo it's really needed. Alright, so just the difference in the face with those burns. So that's before, that's after. Okay. Now I'm also gonna just take my burn brush and I'm gonna burn some of the clouds here in the sky. And maybe just deepen the corners here a little bit as well. So this is before all the burning and after. Alright, so the last few actions that I'll play here is I'm going to play the artisan oil paint finish. I hit play. So on the paint effect layer, on the layer mask, you're just going to want to paint this off of the eyes and the nose and the mouth and any other little details that you don't want to get softened. I don't want her eyes to be soft. And I usually like to paint it off any like earrings, maybe a little in her ear here as well. Oh, I don't have that at 100%, so let's try that again. Especially over the eyes. Okay. So as you can see, it's just softening up everything. You can really see it in her dress here. And it's just adding to the really like soft painted feeling. All right, so and then the sharpen details is basically exactly what it is. You just want to sharpen those details. I usually like to just go in and sharpen up the eyes a bit more. And then, you know, little things that maybe her crown, sharpen it up a little bit. Okay, so this is before. It's a very subtle change, but, and this is after. Okay. All right, I'm gonna flatten that. And then I like to sharpen for print. And this is quite a strong sharpen, so on some pictures at 50% it's perfectly, you know, it works great, and others it maybe is a little too much, so you just play around with the opacity and figure out what you like on your own images. Alright, so let's see what this one's like at 50. I feel like I like it at 50, so I'll flatten that there. And then I always like to play my light noise action over top. I'll zoom in and show you what that does. So 50% is a little much for this one. I'll bring it down to 30. And basically what it's doing is hiding all the work you've done. So if I turn this off, as you can see, because we've softened her skin so much, we've painted it off the eyes, so there's all these little speckles and details popping out in the eye that we want to hide. We want to just even that all out. So the grain over top is doing that exact thing. It's hiding the difference from the soft skin to the detail that's coming out in the sharpened eyes. And we'll just flatten that here. And then we are done. So I'm gonna take a little picture here. Oh, let's move this out of the way. So this is opened from our Lightroom. And this is after using the Painted Beauty actions along with the Fiery Sky actions. So quite a big difference. You really don't need a ton of actions to create something that's really unique and different. So having just a small action set that is really effective is really all you need. So, I mean, that's just proving a point. We've only, with the Fiery Sky action, we only had 5 different actions, but what a difference it really makes. So I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you like the actions as well. You can pick up the Painted Beauty actions in the store. You get 25% off for that because you purchased the Fiery Sky tutorials. And we will see you in the next tutorial where we're going to go over hand edits that will get you the same look and feel as this image we just did with the actions. See you there. Bye.